Good evening, everybody. Glad you can join us. I'm Shon Gables inside the Atlanta News First Plus studio here in the heart of Atlanta on this Wednesday, August the 21st. We are so glad you could join us. We have a lot of things to cover today, and this is where I just stop, slow down, and just give you just a peek behind all of the big stories that we're covering on our newscast at Atlanta News First at 11, on Peachtree TV at 10, and WPGA in Macon. And we're going to start things off first letting you know, if you're in Atlanta, you've probably really enjoyed this sort of cool down we're having. First Alert Meteorologist Cutter Martin, he is going to talk to you about that forecast in a moment. But we're going to go live to the United Center in Chicago. Here's a live look outside. Today is day 3 of the Democratic National Convention. And boy, oh boy, are we in store for a lot of stuff today. In fact, I'm going to switch things up here. Just bear with me. I'm trying to bring up some graphics that I had created and trying to find them real quickly for you. There we go. Just to let you know, a reminder here, this is DNC kickoff day, day 3. Atlanta News First political reporter Doug Reardon, he is live inside the convention center floor. He's going to have reports for us on Atlanta News First at 11, on Peachtree TV at 10, and also on WPGA in Macon. Doug and our political partners also, we're going to be streaming live coverage of this high-stakes event. Especially, this is a big night for Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as he accepts the Democratic vice presidential nomination. Walz will deliver the keynote address, and he's under intense pressure to prove himself on a national stage. Some of you know him, but there's a lot of you who do not. And tonight, he is going to be formally introduced as the Democratic Party's vice presidential candidate and running with Kamala Harris. And the voters are watching. Walz is expected to introduce himself as a relatable, also as a Midwesterner who fights for the middle class. This is a live view inside the convention floor. It is a packed house, not an open seat anywhere. Former President Bill Clinton scheduled to speak tonight, along with former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and talk show host Oprah Winfrey. Right now, the DNC, it is riding on a wave of viewer success. Day 2 of the convention, which highlighted former President Barack Obama, former First Lady Michelle Obama. They were the keynote speakers, and boy, did they have a lot of people watching. 20.6 million viewers last night. That surpassed the 20 million that watched on day 1 of the DNC, and it outmatched the audience for the Republican National Convention's second night. Tonight is going to be star-studded. Performances by singer Pink, singer John Legend, R&B legend and icon Stevie Wonder, and Saturday Night Live star Kenan Thompson will address the convention goers. Here's Atlanta News First political reporter Doug Reardon with more.
And Georgia politician Jason Carter, grandson of the 39th president, was up there on stage last night talking about Jimmy Carter's legacy. He said he never measured success by the races that he won, but by the people that he helped. And he said that's a value that Kamala Harris shares with his grandfather. Of course, Jimmy Carter has been in hospice care for 18 months in his hometown of Plains, Georgia. Jason Carter said again today when we talked to him this morning that his grandfather is fighting to make it to November 5th so he can cast a ballot for Harris. Trump criticized Carter after that news came out, calling him the nation's second worst president, only behind Biden. But Jason Carter said today that is exactly the type of talk that makes Jimmy Carter want to support Harris even more.
You know, she also is putting regular people at the center of the economic story, at the center of the campaign, instead of it being about sort of, her rich friends, more about not her problems, but about your problems. And I think that's really a Jimmy Carter way of looking at the world, right?
And former President Carter is also a big supporter of VP nominee Governor Tim Walz. He will be taking the stage. Walz will in just a couple of hours to accept his party's nomination. From Chicago, Doug Reardon, Atlanta News First.
And Doug is going to be in Chicago all week, bringing you special coverage of the Democratic National Convention. Make sure you tune in for this. And make sure you join myself and Blair Miller. Tonight at 11, our reporters are covering other big stories here closer to home that's affecting all of us, including a huge scandal at the Fulton County Jail. Fulton County Jail contractors have just been arrested in a huge contraband investigation. They're accused of sending explicit photos and videos to a jail inmate and providing others with cell phones. That, by the way, is illegal. Atlanta News First Carly Barnett is on that story. Then we're also in Gwinnett County. We're deep diving into some confusion over a historic building. The building in question is the county's first ever library, but a huge sign now says it's condemned. Atlanta News First Madeline Montgomery spoke to Norcross's mayor. He says all of this is a lie. We'll have more on that story. And Atlanta News First Tori Cooper is at the scene of yet another gas station shooting in West Atlanta. We just checked. The victim is in critical condition. It is a busy night. We'll have an update tonight at 11 on Atlanta News First, immediately following the DNC. So we have a lot to cover. We hope that you'll join us. But in the meantime, let's talk about this beautiful forecast that's outside. I have pictures. Cutter Martin is joining us now. Cutter, I'm showing Chicago, and I know you don't want to give the forecast there. I think
it's okay. There's a little bit of relation here. One of the cooler DNC conventions that we have had up in Chicago, some of this anomalously cool weather working its way back into North Georgia. I know you're a fan of the cooler.
I pumpkin spice coffee has been released by Starbucks.
Yes.
This is definitely one of those days where it's like a fake fall.
It is,
but
we'll take it.
A nice cup of hot cocoa or pumpkin spice, and then I'm going to go put a hoodie on. I'm going to get some exercise.
Growing up in the South, you know what my grandma used to do?
What did she do?
She would turn, and my grandpa hated this, turn up the AC, make it really cold, and then light the fire. Just as soon as that first little sub 90 day happened, you know.
Well, we are sub 90, but I don't. How long is this going to last? That is the number one question.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and get into that forecast here. We're going to kind of switch around some of our graphics here. Well, actually, you can even just leave Cam 1 up there for you,
Cam
Sean.
1? Okay, I'm working on it. I'm right there. I think we'll
do the little topsy-turvy trade here. We're going to switch from news to weather. We might just have to do the good old switcheroo here, Scooby-Doo style.
I'm going to go out of the way. So while Cutter gives you the forecast, make sure you join us tonight at 11 on Atlanta News First. We have a lot to cover, big stories with the DNC. I know all of you are watching it. We have a full report tonight at 11. Cutter, take it away.
Yeah, and forecast-wise, again, it is going to be absolutely gorgeous out there. We do have decent conditions on the way, so keep that in mind. Nice stuff ahead. But do want to remind you that, of course, the weather is always changing here in North Georgia, and the cool weather this time of year does not tend to last all that long. Wish I could say real fall was here. Unfortunately, though, that is not the case. Not only are we going to get back to normal temperatures, we're actually going to go to the other end of the spectrum, and we are looking at conditions getting far hotter than normal. Average high now back in the upper 80s, but we're looking at the temperatures potentially back in the mid to upper 90s. So a lot to talk about, a lot of weather to chat about. And here is a live look outside right now. This is back in the city of Atlanta, top end of the perimeter. And you can see lots of sun. We do have a couple clouds. We had a little more earlier today, and I think that we will see more develop overnight tonight. So it's not going to be a clear sky. But I do think it will be a nice evening, and the chance of rain, while not zero, remains low. So as Sean was mentioning, as we kind of chatted about a moment ago, all the more reason to get outside and to enjoy nice weather across North Georgia and in Metro Atlanta, because it is going to be that nice of an evening across the city and really the entirety of the Metro. I'm going to pull up weather graphics here in just a moment. We're getting set, pulling those up. But the headline of the story, what we're really watching here is the fact that it is a day to get outside, an evening to get the long run in. I was out on the Beltline earlier, and believe it or not, I did hold back. I was walking past Pont City Market, their old Fourth Ward, going towards Ponce Highland, but people were saying, it's the first day of fall. Fall is here. This is the first day. We're done with the heat. And unfortunately, that is not going to be the case in the first alert forecast. We do have much hotter weather on the way. This is simply a tease, and quite honestly, something that is a little anomalous for this time of year. So savor it, get outside. I know I'm saying a lot of words here, buying some time as we switch graphics around here for you. Again, thank you for tuning in and for watching. We're going to remind you, if you do have any weather questions, comments, concerns, that is what makes this ANF Plus stream so great, so fun to be a part of. I can spend a little extra time than maybe traditional on-air platforms, answer those weather questions, comments, concerns as they come in. Again, thank you. I am First Alert Meteorologist Cutter Martin, and Dexter Green Coming in with a question here, Dexter saying, "Hey, Mr. Cutter, it's been a while. Good to see you. Good to see you as well, Dexter. Does the weather typically, is it typically this nice in mid-August? August is supposed to be extremely hot." So, kind of a two-part question there, and a two-part answer for that question. Typically, our hottest weather in North Georgia is actually going to be in July, mid to late July. So we're past that point. Keep in mind, this is still anomalously cool. We were cooler than average, and we live in a time where it's kind of harder to get cooler than average days, especially in the city of Atlanta at the airport. And the fact that we're, 5-6 degrees cooler than average, I think definitely yields the fact that this is a little anomalous. It is not normally this nice across North Georgia and Metro Atlanta. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into the first alert forecast. Dexter, thank you for the question. If you have any more, feel free to give me a holler here. Again, trying to open weather graphics here. Of course, they decide to be a little extra tricky. Let's see if it'll open it up for me. And we are unfortunately having some issues, so we may have to go ahead and go to the website. May not have access to, of course, technology is your friend until it isn't, but we're going to go ahead and pull up the website here, just give you a check of the first alert forecast, and a good reminder that it's all the same here in the first alert forecast. And no matter which platform you get it on, whether we're streaming on ANF Plus, whether you're on AtlantaNewsFirst.com, or whether you are streaming the newscast or getting the forecast at I should say, the First Alert weather app. So as we've said, a stunning evening is underway across North Georgia and Metro Atlanta. That's the big story here. And what you're looking at is AtlantaNewsFirst.com. All we're going to do is click on the First Alert Weather tab there at the top. That's actually an updated story, including a video taken from the Atlanta News First at 7 p.m. newscast. Latest forecast, nothing has changed since then. Stunning evening is underway. But notice what the website says there. First Alert forecast. Enjoy the comfortable weather. Hot afternoons are on the way. So I do want to go ahead and get to that part of the forecast. And temperatures are forecast to not only get back to average, but we're going to shoot to the other end of the spectrum here. Here's the 10-day for the city of Atlanta. Today we are in the mid-80s, some in the lower 80s, mountains in the 70s. Tomorrow 86 with a dry forecast, and I think more sunshine tomorrow overall than what we had today. A few morning clouds, but then back to a better weather as we get into tomorrow afternoon. GG and STEM saying, "Hi, are we expecting more heavy rains for the rest of hurricane season?" Nothing on the docket right now, but what I will say is that even though it's quiet now, doesn't mean we are done with tropical threats, does not mean we are done with hurricane season. Statistically, historically, we're entering the most active period of weather, heading into the middle of September. And I will say that while we're quiet now, there are signs that the tropics may get a little bit more active. I know we're in a lull. There's no doubt about that. Less busy than what it should be, but we're not done with hurricane season. And GG and STEM, if you're talking if you're talking about North Georgia and Metro Atlanta, the risk of a glancing blow or a heavy rain impact from a tropical system, it is not removed from the table. It's not done yet for hurricane season. I say by the time we get to mid to late October, as far as this season is concerned, we can start to look away and look elsewhere and shift our minds towards fall and winter weather patterns. As far as Metro Atlanta, North Georgia mountains, middle North Georgia is concerned. Between now and then, though, there is still that risk, and certainly it is worth keeping an eye on. But for the time being, we're tracking heat. Back up to 90 Saturday, 92 Sunday. So we're going back above average as early as Saturday to Sunday afternoon. Back in the mid-upper 90s. Possibly as we get into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So big heat is on the way. And a reminder, that is only half the story. It is going to get much hotter next week, not just because of the hot air itself, but humidity comes back. The lower humidity that we are enjoying right now, that is going to be gone, and we're going to be dealing with much hotter conditions as we get into next week, partly cloudy. Next rain chance, really not in the forecast until we get into next Wednesday night, next Thursday, and next Friday. So we're talking 7, more so 8, 9 days away before our next significant rain chance, and with heat on the way by that point, we will need a little bit of rain for your yards, your gardens, for our trees. Don't want that late season tree stress. We're going to lose our leaves early. That's certainly not good for the fall color that is, only a month and a half from starting just to our north, more so 2-3 months in the city of Atlanta, and then, of course, even longer as you get down to southern parts of the state. So just wanted to check in. I know we have to do things a little bit differently tonight. Much hotter weather is on the way. That's the key point to drive home. And want to remind you, full forecast, as Sean alluded to a few moments ago, coming up tonight on Atlanta News First at 10 on Peachtree TV, Atlanta CW affiliate. And then again for the late news with First Alert meteorologists, both Patrick Pete and Fred Campagna at 11 p.m. Want to go ahead and leave you with a gorgeous look outside. Top end of the perimeter, mostly clear here, though more clouds tonight. Spotty rain chance, less than 20%. So it's a stellar evening. Do get outside and enjoy it because much hotter weather does make a comeback as we get into next week.